Hello and welcome. I'm Leigh-Ann Gerrans and you're watching W News, broadcasting live from the Al Arabiya studios. These are our top stories. At least 128 people have been killed in a devastating fire at multiple high-rise buildings in Hong Kong, the city's deadliest blaze in more than 70 years. President Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from all third world countries after two members of the National Guard were shot in Washington. And President Zelenskyy's chief of staff resigns after anti-corruption agencies in Ukraine raided his home earlier today. The death toll as a result of the massive fire that engulfed a residential estate in Hong Kong has now risen to at least 128 people, with around 200 people still unaccounted for. Full-scale rescue work is ongoing, but as time goes on, hopes of finding more survivors are diminishing. Patrick Falk reports.
After battling through the night on Thursday, firefighters finally extinguished the blaze early this morning. Smoke that had filled the skies above the Wang Fuk Court estate dispersed, while flames that had kept burning on the upper floors of these towers were put to rest.
Our aim now is to make sure the temperature decreases in the building, and once everything is deemed safe, police will collect evidence and conduct further investigations.
The cause of the inferno is yet to be determined. Authorities say investigations could take several weeks. But it's believed the fire could have started on the lower floors of the residential blocks. On Friday, Hong Kong's anti-graft unit arrested two directors of a consultancy in charge of renovations at the complex. It's unclear what corruption charges they may face, but already 3 other people have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter for using unsafe materials. Reports widely blame styrofoam installed on windows and lifts and meshing that did not meet fire safety standards for quickening the spread of the blaze. Meanwhile, residents are still coming to terms with their loss.
Our home used to be so happy. Everyone in our community lived joyfully here. The people in our community all had good lives.
Many people who've lost their homes and belongings are struggling and face an uncertain future. Still, those that manage to escape may consider themselves fortunate compared to others. With many people still missing, the death toll is likely to rise further. Patrick Falk, Al Arabiya English.
For more on this, we can now go live to freelance reporter at Hong Kong Free Press, Selina Cheng. Selina, thank you so much for your time this evening and for joining me. Rescue efforts have been called off, but hundreds of people are still missing. What's the latest?
So there's hundreds of people who were reported missing. The authorities are trying to get in touch with them. The expectation is that a lot of them perhaps are not reachable because they're now without phones or haven't replaced their SIM cards. Because fire services and police have already swept the building from top to bottom, so the chances of finding more survivors is quite low. But then it's not in our expectation that the death toll rises dramatically after here. So the moving forward, authorities are doing their investigation, collecting evidence from the buildings. It's a process that could take several weeks before the residents could even go back to inspect their affairs and their apartments.
More people have been arrested over the deadly fire. That brings the total number to 8. What more do we know about these arrests?
Multiple agencies are conducting their investigations at the same time, including police and the anti-graft agency, the ICAC in Hong Kong. The 8 people arrested by the anti-graft agency are connected with the contractors or the subcontractors. There are no charges pressed right now, so we do not know the exact nature of their arrest. But the people arrested have been brought to their offices where authorities seized boxes of documents and records for their investigation. So more will come to light in the coming days, I believe.
Selina, Hong Kong's worst fire in many, many years happened despite numerous complaints from residents about their safety. Do we know any more about what caused this deadly blaze in Hong Kong?
So the initial eyewitness video showed quite clearly that the fire started at the lower floors at the exterior of one of the buildings in the areas close to the scaffolding. The exact cause is still very much under investigation. Initial speculation indicated that maybe the meshing around the scaffolding may have been substandard or were not fireproof. However, there were also information saying that the many of the windows at the buildings were sealed with styrofoam boards to prevent loose materials from breaking the glass during the construction, and that material is flammable. A third factor is that many of the alarm systems in the buildings were not activated during the fire. So it's appears to be a complex situation where many things may have failed at the same time. So these kind of large renovation projects in Hong Kong are highly contentious because of the sort of past records of price fixing and corruption involved in the building committees along with the contractors. So people are very angry and they're demanding answers. It's something that will take a long time to investigate to find out what were the systematic failures that happened, at every level, leading to such a high casualty.
And also, what happens now? Are authorities stepping in to help those residents who have been left homeless? Are they giving funds? Because what you've just described to me is what sounds like the mood has almost turned to anger.
Yeah, in recent years, the political situation in Hong Kong has been quite tense since 2020. And so we are now 10 days out from the largest election in the city in 5 years, an election that may be quite unpopular. So authorities, they have promised cash handouts to all of the affected families, and also cash handouts to those who've lost family members. At the same time, a lot of these people are now housed in temporary shelters. The government has coordinated to have them move into other types of transitional housing because it looks like they will not be able to return to their permanent homes for a good period of time. As I said before, the kind of renovation projects and owners' housing committee have been a contentious issue that the government hasn't been able to thoroughly fix in the past decades. And this is also very much linked to the district politics. So naturally, people get very angry because they see that this is a long-standing problem, and many alerts have been raised, many complaints, many people tried to turn around situation, including in this very housing estate. The emotions are running high in the city, on social media, and in the public discussion, in the public discourse.
Selina Cheng, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, President Trump has said he will permanently pause migration to the US from all third world countries after 2 members of the National Guard were shot in Washington, allegedly by an Afghan national. 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom died from her injuries, whilst 24-year-old Andrew Wolf is fighting for his life. In a post on Truth Social, the president said the decision would allow the US system to fully recover from immigration policies that have eroded the gains and living conditions of many Americans. For more on this, I'm joined from Texas by former Democratic Congressman Nick Lampson. Nick, it's a pleasure to have you on the show with me this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I just wanted to get your reaction to Trump's Truth Social post saying he's going to pause migration from third world countries immediately. What are your thoughts on those words?
Well, first reaction is that it's somewhat reactionary. You know, America has always presented itself as a good people. We are good. We are welcoming. We want and know that our economy is strong when we have people, the best people from around the world to come. If we have people come into the country with the intent of doing harm to us, then we're going to be as angry as I can possibly imagine or describe, and try to stop or retaliate against that anger toward us. And I think that's the feeling that President Trump has right now. It's understandable, but at the same time, we're actually doing some things that are not about us. We have restrictions on how you put military into domestic situations in the United States of America, according to our Constitution. And we believe in them. And so I think that it's wrong for us to be reactionary to something that was a ghastly, a horrible action, which we do not want to happen in the United States of America.
And you say there that it's a very reactionary post from Donald Trump. But in your experience, how realistic is such a policy, you know, to stop the migration of people legally or logistically? It's going to be extremely difficult for the U.S. administration to do this.
I would think it's not only going to be extremely difficult, but extremely costly and costly to the economy. We rely on each other around the world. We have been a very open nation. We want visitors. We want immigrants. We want people to bring their knowledge and their experiences to the United States of America because it makes us better. I am the grandson of immigrants to the United States. These things are all important. So we're in such a politically charged environment right now in the United States that's what causes the problem. That's what why people will react differently to his actions, to his statement. But you can't put anything past him. What he says is going to happen, he will make an attempt to do, right or wrong. And unfortunately, too often it's turning out to be wrong, and certainly it's different than many of us in the United States want to see have happen.
So, Nick, it's really interesting because I was speaking to a Republican strategist yesterday and we were talking about this very story and the presence of the National Guard on the streets across certain cities in the United States. And he did say to me that many people do feel much safer, that crime has gone down in many of these cities. And it was a great thing that Donald Trump did do. Also, when we talk about migration or immigration into the US, it was Donald Trump who campaigned that he would stop a lot of that immigration into the US, and that's been a big part of his MAGA base. So in America, lots of people do agree with this policy and with what Donald Trump is saying.
I have to agree with what you just described, and I think that certainly is prevalent. It's there on people's minds. But keep in mind that when he was campaigning, he was telling us about mostly at our southern border and a lot with our Central and South America immigrants that are coming into the United States, and many of them coming in illegally. And his campaign was about getting the bad guys, those people who have actually committed crimes in the United States, out. Well, it's gone way past getting criminals out. And the attitude of the citizens that I speak with, at least, is different today. They think that he has gone overboard, and if you look now, his approval rating is down in the mid-30 range, and it's immigration that has caused it to drop significantly. Like I said at the beginning of our conversation, we're a good people, and we want the world to see us as good people. We want to do unto others as they would have us do unto them. So that's the golden rule that we have always lived by. And stopping an action of people moving into the United States for whatever reason they're coming here. My grandparents, all four of my grandparents, left corruption to seek a better life in the United States of America. And while they died poor, they were struggling, they were happy, and they were at peace. And their children and grandchildren have become significantly successful. That's what I believe people are wanting to have happen. And I think that we have created such a politically charged environment in the nation right now that people are not acting in the way that, in that particular way. They see things different. It's harder for people to make the successes of themselves that they want, and therefore they're reacting, and they react to the statements that a candidate such as Donald Trump was when he was candidate running for president, that says, I'll get rid of the immigrants, I'll get rid of these criminals, I'll get rid of these bad guys that are taking our jobs and that are killing our people and doing these things. And there is a reaction to it. I think that there have been so many negative occurrences. There has been so much citizen unrest because of the presence of military on our streets. That's not America. And I think that's what's causing his popularity rating to go down. And I think that in the end, some of what he says will happen, but some of it will not. And I think that we'll eventually temper it. We don't have an active Congress right now. Our Congress is not holding the executive branch of this nation accountable. And until it does, we're going to have all of this back and forth. When we find a way for our Congress to begin again to work for the people of this nation and not for the political parties of this nation, then I think you're going to see some change come. I just hope and pray that it's sooner than later.
And Nick, you know, when the shooting happened, that devastating moment on the streets, and 2 National Guard officers were shot, one fatally, of course. Very sad news. Donald Trump was quite political straight away in the message that he delivered to the American public just hours after from Mar-a-Lago, where he is on Thanksgiving. And he laid some of that blame squarely at Joe Biden's feet. What's your response to Republicans who say the shooting proves Biden-era migration failures?
You know, my first reaction is to say shame on all of them. But I know what's happening here. This seems to be it's a political reaction. We are very politically polarized. We have divided our nation to the point where you're either with me or you're against me. Everything is either black or white. It's not gray. We no longer have the ability to compromise with civility through our discussion, through our debates. And until we find the way back to the middle of the political spectrum, we're going to continue to have these kinds of difficulties. Extremism does not work. And I'll say that as emphatically as I possibly can. Extremism does not work. And I don't care if it comes from the President of the United States or some little guy on the street that has nothing in the world to do with politics. Extremism does not work. We have always succeeded, grown, and created peace among ourselves when we are able to discuss our issues, talk about all of our ideas openly, with respect, and find compromise and do the best we can with what we have available to us at the time. That's what I want to see us go back to in the United States of America. Right now, we are too terribly divided to be able to be successful in doing those kinds of things. That's what made us a great nation. That's what made us a good people. And I guarantee you we can make it happen again. And that's my life. That's what I want to see for my children and my grandchildren.
Nick Lampson, it was a pleasure to have you on, and your thoughts and how passionately you spoke on the subject. Thank you so much. President Zelensky's chief of staff has resigned after anti-corruption investigators raided his home earlier today. Andriy Yermak, who was also Kyiv's main negotiator in the war against Russia, has been plagued by corruption scandals alongside other high-ranking ministers. Zelenskyy announced the news in a video shared on Telegram. The Ukrainian leader has also announced a reshuffle of his presidential office. For more on this, I'm joined from Kyiv by correspondent Megumi Lim. Megumi, thank you so much for your time. It's been a really busy day today with news coming out of Ukraine. But Zelensky's chief of staff has resigned over the anti-corruption investigation. He hasn't claimed any guilt. This is, of course, a huge headache for President Zelenskyy. Was his resignation inevitable?
Going to be a huge headache for President Zelenskyy and his administration. Just to give you some background information on who Andriy Yermak is, he is considered the second most powerful person in Ukraine. This is what people called him. He was the chief of staff of the Zelenskyy administration. And as you also mentioned earlier, he was the top negotiator for the ongoing peace talks that is currently led by the United States. He had just come back from Washington with another top official, Rustem Umerov, is also incidentally accused of being involved in this corruption. So it goes without saying that this is going to be a huge headache. It is shocking news coming out of Kyiv, but it's not too surprising. There's been pressure mounting in terms of people calling for Yermak's resignation, or either that or for Zelenskyy to fire him. People have been suspicious of Yermak, especially the public and also opposition party members. Earlier this month, when Ukraine's anti-corruption body, NABU, released the report and also recordings, they said that they had secretly recorded about 1,000 hours worth of conversations that basically uncovered this corruption scheme where top officials are now accused and charged of stealing money from Ukraine's energy sector. Not everyone in the recording was named, and investigators had named or nicknamed one man Alibaba, and people had suspected that this Alibaba was in reference to Yermak, and people were already suspicious that he was indeed involved in this corruption scheme. And so, again, pressure was already mounting for further investigations to be carried out. This is why there was a raid into his home this morning. We didn't expect for his resignation to come so soon. We don't really have further information on what investigators may have uncovered, but it looks like they did uncover something which led to Yermak's resignation today.
So, you know, as you were just saying, you're putting Yermak into context there. He was President Zelenskyy's right-hand man. He was there by his side. How much of a blow will this be for Zelenskyy? And how difficult is it now to navigate the political scene, because he's going to do a reshuffle?
Yeah, this is going to be a huge challenge. You know, Yermak, again, has been incredibly influential in decision-making and policy-making in many things that is happening in the country, but also in terms of foreign diplomacy. He's just been such an influential figure that President Zelenskyy has been relying on over the years. And not only that, the two men have a special friendship relationship. You know, Yermak has known Zelenskyy before he entered politics. Yermak has worked with Zelenskyy even during the days when Zelenskyy was still a comedian before he entered politics. And when he did enter politics, Yermak was still by his side. And of course, when the full-scale invasion began in 2022, Yermak was still by Zelenskyy's side. And, you know, people describe their relationship relationship as inseparable. And so for Zelenskyy and his administration to have relied on this man that has now resigned, I cannot, I can't expect, or I really think that Zelenskyy is going to find this incredibly challenging, especially when the country is not only facing, Russian forces advancing on the front lines, but with the United States really trying to bring an end to the war. And as we have seen in the peace plan that was originally drafted by the United States and Russia, we have seen these items that are on this peace plan. It really favors Moscow, and Ukraine is viewing this peace plan as a complete capitulation to Russia, to have to surrender to Russia. And so for the top negotiator that has been involved in trying to fix this peace plan, to try to get some of Ukraine's demands into this peace plan, I think it's going to be incredibly disruptive moving forward.
And we must just put this into context. This is a $100 million corruption scandal surrounding the energy sector in Ukraine, as you did say. How is the perception of this going to play out in Moscow? Because they must be pretty pleased at the moment, because like you did say, that original peace plan did definitely favor the Kremlin.
Indeed, Russia is going to be, for lack of a better word, gloating over the news coming out today. Russia has often used the corruption and the challenges that Ukraine is facing in terms of tackling corruption as a way to undermine Ukraine's reputation on the world stage. And also not just, this news doesn't just favor Moscow. This is also really undermining for Ukraine internally, domestically, because, as I mentioned, this money was stolen from Ukraine's energy sector, $100 million worth of money that top officials enriched themselves with. And this comes at a time when Ukraine nationwide is suffering large-scale blackouts, scheduled blackouts as a result of Russia attacking Ukraine's energy infrastructure. This has been done before, and Russia has begun carrying out attacks again against Ukraine's energy grid. And so there's been a lot of blackouts across Ukraine. People are without power. And news have emerged that this money, $100 million worth of money, were indeed used for top officials to enrich themselves, because one of the luxury homes, according to a source cited by a Kiev Independent report, one of the luxury homes situated near Kiev that was bought with this money was meant to go to Yermak, apparently. And so, of course, this is not going to be a payout very well here publicly. People are already suffering, and they are calling for everyone involved to be held accountable.
And finally, there are reports coming out today that Trump is planning to hand Putin Ukraine's occupied territories as part of peace negotiations. Now, how will Ukraine react to these points? But also, how will Europe react to these? Because they've really been partners throughout this war.
That's right. A lot of news coming out today. Again, as you said, President Trump reportedly has sent a special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and also Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to Moscow to make a formal offer to basically President Putin, to Russia, that the United States will recognize Crimea as part of Russia. Now, this is a Ukrainian peninsula that has been occupied by Russia since 2014, and Ukraine has been trying to get this territory back since 2014. And of course, during this full-scale war, which began in 2022, in the summer counteroffensive of 2023, they were hopeful that Crimea might be taken back under Ukrainian control. But now, with the United States again making this move that undermines Ukrainian sovereignty and also, of course, favors Moscow, it's not going to play out well with people here. People still believe, of course, that Crimea is part of Ukraine. And of course, Ukraine's European allies have also stressed that Crimea is part of Ukraine. So again, this is not going to play out well, but it is also unclear whether Putin will agree to this, because he's asking for 4 regions of Ukraine to be part of Russia, not just Crimea.
Megumi Lim, it's been really good to have you on the show. Thank you for your analysis and thoughts and talking to me. A new report from the United Nations has named Jakarta in Indonesia as the world's most populated megacity. It's taken the title from Tokyo and is predicted to keep the top spot until 2050. The report also highlights that megacities, which are places with a population of 10 million or more, have quadrupled over the last 50 years. For more on this, I'm joined from Jeddah by travel journalist Simon Calder. Simon, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for your time. First off, are you surprised by this new report that's come out, and why has Jakarta taken over Tokyo as the world's largest megacity, and why has Tokyo lost its top spot it's had for so long?
Okay, well, there's a couple of things going on here. The first one is that if you look at the big Asian cities, places like Jakarta and also Dhaka in Bangladesh, they are capitals of vast countries where millions of people are flocking to the cities. It's simply something which tends to happen in the developing world. But there's something else which is also going on, which is that the way that the United Nations actually counts a single megalopolis, as it's called, a vast city, is now they've kind of finessed the way that that is done, and now they are looking at contiguous square kilometres with at least 1,500 people living there. And actually, according to that rule, it's been about 10 years since Jakarta actually took over from Tokyo, which, despite the general pattern in Japan of zero population growth, Tokyo has been growing, but only slowly. And once they reallocated the numbers, looking at this new way of counting, certainly Jakarta absolutely at the top, but with Dhaka in Bangladesh clearly going to take over, they believe, by 2050. And then after that, you've got in fourth place, you've got Cairo, and then Delhi and Shanghai, which are more or less neck and neck. The vast majority of these places are in Asia.
And you are a travel journalist yourself. What is the draw for visiting Jakarta as a tourist? What tips?
Well, the first thing is be prepared for an awful lot of noise and traffic and chaos. Even in the days when Jakarta was simply a bustling Dutch colonial city, it was busy enough. But now, yeah, you're going to have to, as with so many big Asian cities, just be used to the idea of being stuck in traffic for a long time. But actually, if you get into the colonial core, which was actually a walled city designed to keep non-Europeans out, the whole idea seems ridiculous now. That's all very fascinating. And there is still a strong Dutch colonial history. There's some good museums. And for a more modern take, of course, you have some dazzling skyscrapers, steel and glass, and some top quality lounges on the tops of some of those skyscrapers, which is clearly a really good place to be as the sun sets and you feel above the noise of the city streets.
Simon, in Europe, London, Istanbul and Moscow remain the continent's only megacities. Are we likely to see their popularity increase in the coming years at all?
Good question. Istanbul absolutely is marching ahead. Turkey's biggest city, continuing to grow, as anybody who's been lucky enough to be there recently will know, that the size of the city seems to increase every time you go there, just the sheer area that it covers. If you're flying in, it seems to start quite close to the Greek border these days, I find. London is a different case. London is attracting more people. It's clearly a great world city. It's not growing at the same rate, however. however. But Moscow, well, since, and you were in that really interesting item just now about Ukraine, clearly Moscow is the capital of a nation that has declared war on a neighbor, and that means that it is certainly not attracting people from across the world in the way that it had done for a decade or two. But still, anybody in Russia, the world's biggest country, will still aspire to go to Moscow because it is the great city, although I'd say St. Petersburg is actually rather more beautiful.
Thank you for that tip. But you are currently in Jeddah, and all our audience can see at a site of the Jeddah Tower. Simon, can you tell us more about it, and could it actually overtake the Burj Khalifa as the world's tallest skyscraper?
Well, things are looking good. Yes, let me give you a brief history of the Jeddah Tower, or the Kingdom Tower, or the Burj Jeddah, as it's variously known. It is designed to be the first building that is 1 kilometre, that's well over 3,300 feet above the ground. And that will be about 15% bigger than the Burj Khalifa. However, it has until this year been paused, and really interesting, although it's probably 20 miles, 32 kilometers from the heart of Jeddah, past the airport, in fact, it is still visible on the horizon. And of course, when you are flying into Jeddah's International Airport, it is very visible, because they are now up to the, and this is the news as from yesterday, the 78th floor. That makes it above 300 meters. It's officially a super tall building. And just to put that in context, it's now probably dwarfing the Eiffel Tower. So it's a huge tower as it stands, but it's going to be far more vast. It's going to grow basically by double what it is now. It's going to be an amazing landmark, and yes, steal the crown from Dubai. But Dubai, of course, has a much more developed tourist industry than Jeddah at the moment. However, let's see in a few years' time where the two cities stand.
Simon Calder, that is one pretty incredible building. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a look at some of the other stories making the headlines today. Video from Jenin shows Israeli border police shooting dead 2 Palestinian men who appeared to surrender. The Palestinian Authority is calling the incident a war crime. Israel says the men were wanted and linked to a terror network, and that the incident is under review. Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has defended the officers, saying terrorists must die. At least 174 people have died in Indonesia's Sumatra after severe floods, with many more missing. Search and rescue teams are still trying to reach some of the residents, and authorities are working to clear blocked roads and also restore power. Floods have also hit millions in Thailand and Malaysia. Authorities are airlifting aid to the worst-hit areas. A British passenger has gone missing after falling overboard from a cruise ship off the coast of Tenerife. The 76-year-old man was reported missing on Thursday morning, prompting a search involving helicopters and patrol boats. A reminder of our top stories. At least 128 people have been killed in a devastating fire at multiple high-rise buildings in Hong Kong, the city's deadliest blaze in more than 70 years. President Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from all third world countries after 2 members of the National Guard were shot in Washington. And President Zelenskyy's chief of staff resigns after anti-corruption agencies in Ukraine raided his home earlier today. And that's all from us on W News. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and, of course, follow us on X. Goodbye, happy Friday, and thank you for watching.